Good evening. I'm here doing the week 4 milestone turn-in. Wanted to go over what I've got on progress for my bear so far this week. I focused solely on this one like you asked me to. Did a bunch of work on him to finish getting proportions right. I've definitely made a lot of progress compared to last week. I was able to spend a whole evening just working on the head, getting the proportions of that right, spending a few hours on that, getting the forms up and looking at the anatomy of how all this is constructed on his face and his head, and looking at the skull and how it sits and how it tapers back, or comes from the and tapers in, and how this ocular cavity on theirs is much more present right here. And then I fixed the mandible area where the jaws connect. I noticed that was dipping in on mine, like you said, and I went back and pulled that out. I went back and started, filling in the areas and pulling out the muscle forms of, where I had carved in the muscles. I started pulling them out to give them more form. It's not wanting to work for me today. But I went in and just repositioned this leg so that he doesn't look like he's sliding forward. And then I was looking at the structure of the leg, and I noticed what you're talking about, that almost that turn. They have that second part of their, I guess it would be the ankle. So it's like they have their foot in an extended ankle, and then the bottom part of the leg because of their paws. And I noticed that I didn't have that present on my model, so I went through and added that. But I just went through and solidified the rest of the forms out. The big thing I changed too is what she told me. I made this wider, the space in between here, so I pulled the legs out to about the size they should be, so they kind of work into the body now like they should. And then I tapered these in a lot. They were just about as wide out as the back legs, if not wider, but I pushed those in a lot and tapered them down instead of having them all rounded out up here. But I was able to get more form in that. We'll start with the head with a close-up. I pulled the ears out, pulled them around and pulled them up a little bit. That way they weren't so far back in the head. I redid the mouth and the shape of it, and just kind of the contours of everything around the nose. Just kind of, looking at how there's those different small muscles on top, and the muscles that come around the mouth, and how they make the mouth change in shape. And then I noticed with the cranium, there's that dip just because of, how his fur lines up and how the skull is. So I went ahead and positioned that in there just to get an idea of what it looked like. Then we'll go to side view, so you can see everything. I went back and fixed some of these too. I pulled this out to kind of round it out more like it should be. I did some more sculpting on the bottom, which I'll show you, and fixing of the muscles. And with this one, I started to kind of pull it out so I could smooth it out and get those basic proportions completed. And then I started going around and just fixing some things. I fixed the back legs. I might need to fix some of the stuff some more, and take the intensity of how that sticks out down a little bit. I did trim the spine down. The spine was a little too protruded a little too much, stood out too much like you said, so I cut that down, smoothed it out, and then just kept going, doing just a little bit at a time, making sure I've got my my muscle flows right and how they connect down here and they pull this way, but they all kind of have a little bit better positioning. I tried to get a little bit more difference in the tapering and the size, so you can see up here that's towards the top of the side up here, and I got it to kind of taper in more and then get wider around the rib cage, and up here right there is where we see the chest muscles, and it moves into the neck, and it all kind of works a little bit better, I think, than it did last week. So this right here is, my basic mesh now. This is where I'm at for that. So I'll give you a couple more turnarounds just to get a look at that, and then I'll give you a good 3/4 view of it. I definitely feel like it looks like more of a grizzly bear than it did last week. I kind of went through a transition where it was kind of looking like a cartoon bear, and then it looked more like a black bear, and then it kind of looked like a polar bear's head because it was smaller, and then I finally got it, rounded out more. I got the forms out and got that to stand out to, actually look like a grizzly's head. So next I would like to show you my second version for this week. This is where I just went through, pulled up some of my references like these and some of my other anatomy references, and I just started laying on clay. I started kind of inflating some of these forms and moving them out, and I just wanted to lay on clay to get that base layer of what it might look like with fur, get the dimensions of that right. I know I've probably still got some base work to do, but I was starting to try and get a feel for what it's going to look like as I move on. So I was testing a lot of things out, just kind of getting some base coverage over the whole bear. Move through the whole thing, just kind of a little bit at a time. I did focus a lot on the head, trying to get those fixed, because I know it almost looks like 2 layers of fur if you look at it. I mean, you've got like a layer here, and then it goes out a little more on the sides, and so I kind of tapered that out a little bit and pulled that out more. There's a big difference too with the neck. The fur makes him look a lot bigger and a lot fatter, because it covers up all that muscle underneath it to keep him warm. So I went through and started doing that, just kind of getting a feel for it, making sure I still kept to the forms and everything and didn't distort the shape of the bear. Just some messing around with extractions. Extracted, it's maybe a little too much there. But I kind of wanted to play on some flows for the fur, just kind of like how I could flow the hair and the fur of him without messing him up too much. So I just did an extraction of the skin. And today and yesterday, I did a lot of work on, just messing around with some different types of fur strokes. I watched quite a few. I watched a couple videos this week. Just different ways to do fur, and looked back at some tutorials that our teacher showed us. And, just kind of started going through and getting a feel for. How I'm going to do it. And I know that we talked about, you talked about using fiber mesh, and maybe trying to figure out a way to use that, or maybe utilize this and fiber mesh. I'm definitely interested to kind of continue on learning to pull out a more realistic feel to this fur. But what I started with is just like a small tiny stroke standard brush, and use the dam standard as well to cut away on the head. It was my first technique I tried, just to kind of, I think my draw size on this one was like 3 or 4, and I stuck with that, just kind of get a feel for what it looked like, see what I could do with it, see what kind of detail I could get. I also, what I did, sorry to back up, what I started on with this was I took that last version that just had the clay strips laid on, and I brought it into here, and between the smooth brush and the standard brush, I gave it a lot of up and down, not craters, but it kind of looked like a wavy bumps, like it does on the side. So I just kind of like added more strips lightly, and kind of added strips here and there, getting the flow of the fur, moved down, and then smoothed them out on that base, on that top base, and just went through and started working on that. My second style of fur that I started working on was actually on his back legs here. I started working with just the on top of that clay, I started working with just the same kind of way, the dam standard and the regular standard brush, trying to get the flow of the fur and how it might lay on my sculpt, differing from an actual real life bear. It's really hard to get that lifelike flow of the fur that you see in this picture down here or over here. I also watched a video of a guy at I believe it was at a Pixelogic, a ZBrush summit. And he was demonstrating how he did for a couple like models on his, and he was, let me see if I can get this torque here. He was masking out a couple areas, the shape of the fur he wanted to pull out, and then he would sculpt on it, give it some shape, and then go across it with the standard brush and the dam standard, and then he would take in, while it's isolated, he would use the move brush to pull it up and out to kind of give it that flow of the clumps of fur, which I didn't know if that would be best for the bear, because he's got a lot of fur and it's very very dense, but it's also flowy thin fibers. The last one I did that I started working on a lot is this one. I just kind of started going through with the standard brush and pulling just kind of like short strokes, pulling in forms, getting that flow of the fur, and then I went back with the standard and the dam standard, and started adding small details, cutting away small details, to kind of get that fur feel as much as I could. I know that this up here looks pretty bad. I'm gonna have to turn off symmetry and go back to there later. But I just wanted to start getting a feel for what everything was gonna look like with my bear. So we'll start on the side, and don't mind these. I was actually just kind of blocking out, where I might put the different sections for the fur, and starting on those front legs. But I'm definitely looking forward to continuing this one. This one's been a lot of fun. So I will do a couple turnarounds. So we've got the side where you can see most of the fur detail. We'll go to the front, and then you can mostly just see the front facial detail, which is very subtle, but I feel like it reads well. For the light face hair up here, and for the fur on the sides. So we'll pull it around the side. You can see all that, and this is with the added volume, which I might need to tweak, especially for the for the front legs. I might need to add some more volume on the side for the fur, which I can just move that out. Go around to the back. You can kind of see how his belly hangs down, and then up there you can see the chin. Actually, no, that is the bottom tip of the belly. My bad. That's how far the belly would hang down with the fur, and I extended the neck too, so you can see how far that hangs down. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. And then we'll get a good 3/4 view right there, just so you can kind of see how it all is working together. I know I'll need to get a lot of change in this up here. It looks very stylized right now, and I know that y'all are kind of wanting for us to go for a realistic look, I think. So I'll have to work on that a lot. But as I move into this next week, I'll be working on my character, but I'm looking forward to getting to this in a couple months and starting to work on that again. Alright, thank you very much. Hope you have a good evening.